Hey, this is Jon Bokenkamp. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Season 7 is a wrap for the Blacklist, and we are back with a special interview tonight. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and we're going to be quick about this. We're going to get right into the interview. We just talked to Mr. Jon Bokenkamp. Well, actually, we just talked about a week ago. We talked to him after the finale ended about that finale, that animation mixed with a live-action finale, as well as some little tidbits about Season 7 and where we might be headed in Season 8.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a real interesting discussion. Once again, we love doing these for you, the fans, most importantly. So just sit back and enjoy this conversation with the creator, Mr. Jon Bokenkamp, on all things Season 7.
Jon, I mean, Season 7 as a whole, you obviously had an entire arc that you weren't able to finish, but you were able to get it as close as you wanted to. I mean, how close did you get to your vision by doing this animation up to the episode?
Well, honestly, three episodes away. There's still 3 episodes of good stuff that we didn't cram all into this finale. I mean, I think we accelerated things a little bit, but we never go into the next season where we're like, okay, great. Here we actually have 2 scripts written, the third one broken, and I don't know how we'll take those apart and put them back together and reconfigure things, but we have a lot of good stuff coming up, So we didn't really cannibalize everything and put it into this episode. We made some adjustments, but nothing major. So we got 19 episodes of the way there, really, with giving it what we hope feels like some, a finale, but we got a big throw forward.
Can you tell me like how this process worked? I mean, I want to talk about the whole season, but this is really interesting to me because you guys were thrown a curveball, obviously, as everybody was with the coronavirus, and production shut down. You had, I think, 4 days filmed. Is that right?
Yeah,
or something like
4
that?
4 days of episode 19.
So at what point are you sitting around going, you know what? I want to make my own Batman comic book, but I want to make it with the Blacklist. Like, how does that conversation happen? How do you mold those two things together?
Well, there was a certain point where it was like, we're going to have to shut down. Like if for a while it was like, wow, there's this thing. Is it real or not? We're in New York. And then we started hearing from the people in New York saying, it's like the tsunami is coming and it's X number of hours or days away. And when it happened, it really was just like, shut down, get out, be safe. Mm-hmm. Who knows, totally, as everyone has experienced with their work and families and stuff. It's just so unprecedented. We didn't think about anything other than, well, it was over. And, we flipped episode 17 and 18. The wrestler story with Anthony Michael Hall was actually supposed to be an episode later, but we thought, well, that's kind of a weird way to end the season with episode 18. So we flipped them and moved that up. So the last episode was 18, which was sort of Liz and Katarina in the car together, and you felt like they were coming together. And I actually had a friend in town here who had mentioned to me, he's like, well, why don't you just do it like an old radio show? Just put a radio up on the TV and the actors can read their lines and everyone can gather around in the living room. And John Eisendrath and I started joking about it. And then it sort of quickly went to, well, we have the comics that Nicole Phillips wrote. Maybe we could do the voices and then put those faces up on screen. I was calling Kurt Kenny, who's a friend of mine who's directed a couple episodes. I'm like, Kurt, do you have a camera that we could literally just put the camera over the comic books and get their faces? And then Eisendrath said, well, my brother-in-law runs this previs company, Proof. We should talk to them. And so that's where it started to be like, oh, maybe we can actually do this. But it was over a matter of 2 days, probably 3 days. And then we're just like, all right, let's do it. To their credit, Sony and NBC were super cool about it. They're like, well, we don't know what you're doing, but let's try it, And we were like, we can't make any promises. We don't know what we're doing, but trying times. Let's try to finish an episode. And I'm glad I was more skeptical about it than Jon was. Jon was very excited about it. And I was like, I don't know. How is this going to work? And what if it doesn't work? And he's like, who cares if it doesn't work? Let's just try it, And I think in the end, I'm really glad we did,
That was his brother-in-law. So if this thing would have just blown up in your face, is like there would be family dynamic issues you couldn't even imagine.
Which is perfect for the Blacklist. Really think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little family triangle there. It was his brother-in-law, and I think if it wasn't somebody that he knew, who he could call up and say, "Look, here's what we're going to try to do. You got 5 weeks. There's no messing around. Can we really do this?" I think if it was some other company, we're like, let's go get bids and talk about it. It never would have happened. It would have been the machinery of, just bureaucracy would have dragged down and we wouldn't have been able to do it. But yeah, they were great.
It came out really cool. It really did. Legitimately.
Thank you. Yeah.
Not just because you're here. I legitimately think this is a really cool episode. I was telling Troy, I'm like, this is one of those episodes where people are going to talk about it in a few years about how they pulled this thing together.
Really?
It's just one of those. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like one of those AFI top 100 type shows or whatever down 20 years from now. And this will be one of those in that list.
We should be so lucky. I mean, it's so hard to remove the circumstances that it's made under from what's the story. You know what I mean? Like it all is blended together. All the press we've done has all been about the coronavirus and shut down and people working from home. And so it's a little difficult for me to go, well, the story really worked, but there's fun stuff about it. I am happy with the way that it came together. And so thank you for saying so.
Yeah, there's a lot of collective, we call it I mentality a lot right now with everything we're seeing about coronavirus and news. So this was kind of a nice escapism to see the we, right? You had the actors at the front end of the show doing their thing. You had everybody from behind the scenes at the back end of the show over painted black, which was amazing.
That was cool.
I mean, all of that just shows like this is what we can do when we take a situation as people of the world and put creative juice behind it. And I think you guys really made a testament and a statement to what we should be thinking about as we move into the new normal.
Well, it did make me think, wow, there are so many people. I've said this before. There's so many people who make the show happen or any show, This was really a great example of that. Like I remember we were talking to Z Hatley, who was, sending editors home. They're locking down Paramount. And they're like, well, we're trying to get our editing suites out of here. And, I've worked remotely from Nebraska for a long time. I'm back and forth. So I'm kind of used to being in quarantine. That's sort of a standard operating procedure for me. But the idea that the editors had their things, Post was sending microphones to all the actors. We're talking to animators in London and Atlanta, and Bissell is finding music cues for us, and Porter's working on his score from his home studio, and our sound mixer Elmo is mixing the episode from home. It was kind of cool, to see how everyone not only came together because of some of the Zoom meetings and stuff we had. It's like, oh, I'm actually getting to see these people that we usually have a quick phone call or some emails with, but it was a very collaborative process, which was very cool.
What made you decide to incorporate that? Because I'll be honest, like going into this episode, I didn't know what to expect. I'd seen some stills and whatnot, but I had an idea that at some point they're going to have to explain it. It's going to be Harold Cooper's going to do some random thing, or Red's going to explain it to take it to a car. Like we're going to get animation to explain a backstory or something. That's what I thought. But you did it a very different way where the actors actually themselves introduce it. And
tied it into the story because it was all about Liz's transformation. So to use that line and work that in was just a brilliant stroke.
Yeah, well, that was something that we talked about, because one of the things I was bumping up against up front was like, why are we... I know why we're doing it to try to finish the episode, but as you're watching the episode and you're not in the room going, how are we going to finish it? Why are we doing this? Like, what's the narrative reason or why we're using this device? And all the stuff that we had shot was totally random. So it wasn't like, well, here's a great, it's the first half and then it transfers over into animation. It was just all these random scenes. So I think we pretty quickly realized there's no way we can justify why this is happening. And so Jon had written a piece that at one point it was Red, at one point it was Liz, at one point it was Cooper. And basically is the concept of what was said there. And I called the actors and said, would you just record this and throw in your own, like record it once on your iPhone and then throw it out and just say it again and tell us what happened and what you experienced, because I thought it was really interesting that they were there on the front lines, as the city is imploding around them. And hopefully it gave it sort of a personal, window into what we were doing. And then the other thing that's potentially interesting to mention about that first part is where Liz is talking to Dom. We hadn't shot any of that scene. And so, we're like, well, and Brian Dennehy, who, it's so tragic to lose him, and he was so important to the show. So we had gone back. We found footage from previous episodes of Brian Dennehy and of Liz. And, Chris and Elise found footage of, her not talking. So we could sort of imply that it was voiceover. And so that opening was sort of constructed in a way that we hadn't shot any of it. And we were sort of putting pieces together to try to at least find our way into the story. So then we could, you could sort of excuse it and say, okay, I understand why we're going back and forth. But there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was a little spooky up front.
That was cool. And it led into the finale, which led to Liz she's Batman, really, with that shot. She really is Batman. But she is on a darker journey. And this is a legitimate question. Fans have asked this. So she's gone against Red several times, or they've gone back and forth. What's different about this take? Because to me, it seems like this time, she's really accepted her darker path. Is that the case this time? I mean, is she really embracing it?
Yeah, 100%. I think, and that's maybe that arc is part of what we didn't get to live with quite as much, is that we would have had we had the other 3 episodes to maybe explore that a little more and make it a little more earned.
Well,
but
3 episodes is a long time to flesh things out. So
it is, yeah, and we have, she's not going to get any lighter. I know that. She and as you guys know, I mean, the warrior gene and stewing people and, getting rid of bodies for wrestler and stuff. We've talked about this for a long time, and you can see as you go back over the life of the series, moments where we sort of tried to embrace it and then let go. She murdered the, attorney general, right? And then sort of came back from it. And this, I think the thing that's different about this one is I don't think she comes back from this. I think this is, that Batman shot where she's looking out over the city and trying to figure out, not trying to figure out, she knows, I'm going to embrace this. And this is a line in the sand that we're not coming back from. That's the promise of season 8 that I'm most excited about, is really letting her lean into that, in a big way.
Which I think the other half of that character arc then is the people that are always on the, Liz is a super profiler, but yet she's so gullible at the same time. This whole season introduced us to Katarina Rostova, supposedly her mother. And the only information...
That's not gullible if she thinks it's her mom. Stop that.
But she's only believing the information that's coming from this person. So if you're a profiler, you'd be asking better questions. You'd be digging in a little bit more.
And not when you're emotionally attached. I disagree with Troy, but I'm sorry, I'm answering for you. That's not right.
No, you guys go. This is the stuff I love. I mean, this is the stuff. Here's what I would say about that. We mentioned briefly, and again, I can't tell how much of this read because of animation, but Katarina did mention the Sikorsky archive.
Yep.
And there's a lot more to that in the next coming up, I guess. There is some deep backstory stuff that she's uncovered on her sort of walkabout while she was gone, and has come back with information that I think will help us understand why Liz is making this decision. Again, she hasn't heard it yet, so I can't really justify it that way, but she's there's definitely more than just sort of an emotional thing. There are very concrete, like, plot reasons that I think are coming that might help understand or sort of even out that fight between Red and Liz, and sort of who's right, who's justified. There's more information coming from Katarina that I think might help justify that when we get into season 8.
We appreciate the Sikorsky archives too, because I read up about a General Sikorsky from World War One, World War II. Aaron read up about a guy named Sikorsky who was involved with
he has his own archive,
airplanes, right? His own archive, and then bought out by Northrop Grumman. So we went to this whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's gonna be fun when we get into that.
Any chance you're gonna say 100% certain whether this is actually Katarina Rostova or not? Any chance? Or we just
me now?
Yeah.
How well do we know each other?
Yeah,
now?
I know. It's worth a shot.
Yeah. I better just.
Yeah, don't dig a hole.
Have a drink of my cocktail and ignore that question.
Son of a.
It's always fun. I appreciated the season though, because this time last year we were talking about how we weren't going to be friends anymore because you ruined my theory. And then as the season went along, it kept going like, well, is she Katarina? Is she not Katarina? There was that whole.
Interesting that's out there. I mean, have we done anything to imply that she's not her mother?
Yes.
Like what?
I mean, if you follow the show like we do,
if you follow the show is what you just said to the guy who created it.
I'm saying in general, like if you're digging into it, you know that the dialogue is really critical, and the lexical ambiguity is there, and so there's scenes like the one where Red's like, "Well, your mother is dead," point blank. Harold is saying things in this episode in the finale where he's like, "Don't touch her mom. Her mom's off limits." He's like, I promise I won't touch her," even though he clearly wants her dead. And then there's
that's you reading into it though.
But there was the big one, which was the Belgrade episode when Ilya was like, "You want me to kill your daughter?" And then Dom's like, "No, I want you to hear my plan." And we're like, "Oh, that's interesting choice of language. What's that about?" But that's the fun of the Blacklist. You can take it any way you want.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that's fun because yes. Okay. Thanks for pointing those out and reminding me. I maybe I'm just getting old, but honestly, like I have to get out. I mean, 150 episodes, as you guys know, is a lot. And you go, wait a minute. Every once in a while, there's this sort of embarrassing sort of, oh my God, what did I ask? Oh, John and I were doing an interview yesterday and I had to stop myself. And I had said that, at the end of this season, Liz is on this sort of journey. She's made this commitment. Her mother, Liz, darkness, Batman, all of that. But Reddington doesn't know. And I said, John, does Reddington know? I don't remember. Does he know that he's like, no. He doesn't know that she made this choice. So every once in a while, you kind of have to remind yourself. But those are three good examples of why I might understand somebody would think she's not really Katarina, but we'll have to revisit that question later, I suppose.
I'm hopeful she is, if that helps.
I know.
I'm hopeful she's not.
I know.
Really, here's what I need. I just need Red to say, yes, that is Katarina Rostova right there. Right there.
Well, Aaron, I thought you would be happy of anybody. You would be happy about her choice that 7 years, no answers. He's dodging.
I am very happy.
Yeah. And I don't, I read a lot about what people say about the show, but I do love listening. And I remember, you saying at some point how frustrated you were for him, not, because people rarely are attacking Reddington. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but I thought it was interesting. You were saying, this guy, enough already, right? He's not leveling with her. He's doing the voodoo stuff. And I thought, well, that's sort of how I justify, in a way, her arcing this way. She's had it. Maybe the audience has had it. Enough. Somebody needs to go after the truth and lay into this guy. And so in a way, I guess I sort of feel like Liz, the audience is like, okay, thank you. Let's put his feet to the fire and figure out what's going on.
I actually, we just talked about this when we did the podcast for this episode, but we had the conversation. I am very much in favor of how the season ended. I was pumping my fist. I'm like, good. He lies. I know he doesn't lie, but he lies by omission.
He withholds information.
He withholds. To me, as a dad, whether he's a dad figure, whatever he is, he cares for her or portrays that he cares for her. So by not telling her all this information that is wrecking her life, it makes him a bad guy, in my opinion. And that makes me say, good, Liz, go Batman, go bad.
And
bad.
And with that, people forget he's a bad guy. He is he's a murderer. He's a horrible bad guy. I mean, he tells funny stories and we want to like him, but it is easy to forget that he is a criminal. I mean, an anti-hero. Anyway.
What it is that it's very hard especially when you talk to fans, because they love Spader. So because they love, it's like Walter White. People would defend him to the end of the earth, and it's like, what are you defending? He is a horrible person. I mean, sure, he's done some good, but
he's done more bad than good, I think.
Yeah,
or maybe not, but that's it. But again, that's what's interesting to me. I mean, that sort of gray is interesting. But anyway, yes, full on Batman.
I'm looking forward to what Megan does with that next season.
Absolutely. We should talk a little bit about Brothers too. And
Brothers is one of my favorite episodes this season.
That was great.
Yeah, they did a great job. That I'll tell you, we've been talking about our shorthand in the room has been, wrestlers got somebody buried underneath the concrete patio in the backyard, wherever he's from. We've been talking about that forever, and finally we felt like we had an opportunity to go back and do it. Diego's great. Anthony Michael Hall was great. Sean Hennon did a great job with the script, and it was at the end. It's where we thought we were at the end of the season, and I was looking at the music budget, and I'm like, well, let's blow it. They're not going to give it back to us, so let's spend the money on music, and then we get to this last episode. Maybe we should have dialed back. But I think all the way around, I think everyone really did a nice job, and it was a different sort of mythology episode, still anchored to the present. And I guess it's weird. I had read about it and it didn't occur to me. I mean, I guess I knew, but it's the only episode Spader's not been in. And that's odd,
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to Diego for being able to carry an episode like that without him.
And the Liz scene did a great job, because that was to me, it was very important to how the season ended. That ending scene,
because he could have called Red, right? He could have called Red, but instead he calls Liz.
The original break of the story, he did call Red, and that's what the original move. That's what the move is, And with where we were going in mind, it felt like maybe we need to, it needs to be her that he called, and that's actually my favorite scene in the whole episode. I thought she was fantastic, and their sort of relationship this season has been very unusual, and as she's sort of drifting away or closer to whatever is this sort of organic DNA part of her, he's this like light that represents the good and the Boy Scout and all the stuff, and I think that's why he's sort of become more interesting to her, more special in a way, because of the contrast, that juxtaposition. I think it's interesting. Their relationship's interesting.
And the way that ties all back into Red's story about trying to find his way home through Liz, and that, the Mexican cavefish story, and will he ever find the light again? And just that symbolism that you can bring back from so long ago and then have it appear here again, just ties it all together real nicely.
Yeah, that's right. Same concept of sort of, do you get lost in the darkness and the sort of, horrors of everything that's happening around you, and what is the light? Can you hold on to that? And I thought they did a nice job in that. That was a fun episode.
How have you liked playing with the Katarina Rostova character this season, and having her as a real foe for Red? Well,
I think Lila is great, and because that role, to cast that role, that's hard. I mean, again, it's like Spader playing Red or any of these characters. I can't picture her as anybody else now. Mm-hmm. She is. And I think what Lila does really well, and she's not, how do I say this? She's not like a bad guy in a trench coat with sunglasses who's evil and going to come cut your heart out. She doesn't want to hurt him. She doesn't want to do these things. She's bringing a real sort of emotion to it in a way that I think is far more interesting. And she's great. She's got a real presence, I mean, a lovely, totally opposite of who she is. This lovely woman who does yoga and is very sort of centered and present. And then she shows up on screen and it's like, oh my God, get her out of my house. She's a crazy lady, but she's been great. And I think that arc has been fun. Just who she is to Liz, and exploring all of that. And again, for us threading these needles in the mythology and keeping the story straight has been hard, but it's been fun.
A full season for Park too. Laura's going to become a series regular in 8.
She is.
What was that dynamic when you said, hey, how do we work her into the room and add this person in after Mojan's leaving the show?
Originally, I don't know if we've spoken about this, and I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to speak about it, but I'm going to anyway. And I forget her name. I love her. The woman who came on in the beginning. I could tell you guys sensing, is this a new character who came into the FBI, and Red brought her in to the FBI. She originally, we sort of were talking about her being, I can't even remember her character's name. Help me.
Mira Malik.
No, not Mira. This season.
Frankie.
Frankie. Thank you.
Frankie. Yeah, I love Frankie.
Yeah. So Frankie was great, and we loved her, and we thought, well, maybe she could be somebody that we introduce to Red, and it's Red's team, and then she flips over, and he puts her on the task force. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. I don't know if she wasn't having fun on the show or decided, I don't know that I want to do a 22. We had talked about, bringing her in and sort of exploring it. And when she decided she didn't want to, pursue it, we were like, all right, well, let's bring somebody else in. And we sort of wove, the new, Laura's character in, and then she ends up murdering Frankie, and having a sort of crazy.
It was a great fight.
So, and I think Laura did a great job there. So again, a little bit of a stutter step in how do we bring in somebody new, and both were great. But I think what Park has, what Laura does for her, that's so cool, is there's that spark of anger, that like sort of young, very put together, very bright with it right here, sort of a young wrestler in a way. And then all of a sudden she's just this maniac with, blood dripping off of her face. That ability to flip like that, I thought it was great. And she's got a great energy. She, as an actress and in the show, I think she's got a great energy. As you know, things can be so dark. The show can be so, lives are at stake and Red's down and Liz is, and then to have somebody who has a little more of that energy like Amir has, it kind of helps balance things out in a way that I think we needed. And she's done a great job with that.
Can you tease season 8?
Season 8, all I would say about season 8 is we do have a direction of where we're going. Not that we haven't in the past, but we have a very clear direction of where we're going in terms of the story that we didn't get to finish telling. That is going to be a rocket ship headed into next season, which, is going to be different in many different ways. And I think that's going to be refreshing. It's scary. It's unusual, but it can't always be the exact same. And I think this choice by Liz is going to mix things up in a way that I think are going to be both healthy and fun and disturbing.
And if we're shut down for longer than we think, is it all animated next year?
No, I think all the cast would all love that. Doing all their lines from their bathtubs and their robes, at home in bed. No, I think the fans, we have a great cast. And I think the fans much prefer the real actors to the animation. So I think this is probably a one and done, but has been a blast.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Jon, for being here. And we'll talk to you again when season 8 hopefully returns sometime soon.
Fantastic.
Okay, that's going to do it, guys. We are done. We are out of here. That's going to conclude our discussion for the entirety of season 7. We are done. And remember, 6 seasons of this show are on Netflix. The 7th will be here this summer. So start watching now. If you haven't done it yet, you can be all caught up by the time the next season eventually airs, which we don't know when that'll be. We don't have any secret information I wish we could share with you, but we don't. So go to Netflix, rewatch it. If you've seen it before, just catch up, watch it again, and then subscribe to The Blacklist Exposed on theblacklisexposed.com. And be sure to tell your friends, your enemies, your neighbors, everyone else you can about our show.
Yeah, it's a great time, great show. Make sure you get other people to watch it over the summer. We don't know when it's coming back, but I think just reliving the magic that is The Blacklist thus far and getting ready for season 8. I mean, big turn at the end of this finale with Liz siding with her quote unquote mother. So we'll have to see where it all goes. So definitely get your friends involved and have some watch parties. Use the Netflix watch party on Chrome just to kind of hang out with each other if you're still stuck at home.
That's fun. I've done it. It's fun.
That'll be a good time. So yeah, if you want to follow us during the summer, again, I'm at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. He's at Aaron Smirks. Aaron also does the podcast for The Hollywood Outsider at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Go ahead and check that podcast out. You might see me pop up there a few times as well. And we'll just hopefully see you very soon when the Blacklist resumes sometime in the future. Thanks so much, everybody.
Take care, guys. We'll see you eventually.
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.